Right. Now that we are
There we
recording and everybody knows it, let's get started, Brooke, and let's dive in, because as you guys know, today is the 11th series or the 11th session of our 11 series MREA, and this is the final one for this group. And I'm really excited to go over this, putting it all together. Brooke and I are tag teaming this with you guys. We'll love it to be very interactive as we move on from this series. And also remind you, whether you're brand new to the business or very, very experienced and have a team, we have Ignite launching. When is it launching, Brooke?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And
just in case you thought you were going to not have enough training and education available, there it goes. Tomorrow is Ignite. We'd love for you to join us there. It just kind of amplifies what we're doing here. It's all in sync, it's in alignment, and it really just goes back to the basics and says, here's some steps to make sure you do to put all of this in progress, right, Brooke?
It does. It just, and it reminds you of the steps we're supposed to be taking and the models. And you're hearing from professionals in our world, in the region, who are masters of this. They live by these. So you have some great people to show you how to really fuel your career, reignite your business. And what, like Jen said, whether you're brand new or you've been doing this forever, sometimes we forget these things and we try to flip that triangle, right? This brings your triangle back to the base. And it's so funny. I had a conversation with Fred and his team yesterday about the MREA because we were talking about the wrap up and everything. And one of the girls said, well, I just read it forwards, backwards. Like I just read the whole thing. And I was like, right. But this is a book you can constantly read, right? You never know.
Well, what is Gary Keller? Does anybody know how many times Gary Keller recommends that you read this book? Anybody on here know? Just shoot out a number. Just give me a guess.
12.
You know what? You are very close. He says 17. I don't know the significance of 17, but I would assume that if you really read this book 17 times, you would know if I said turn to page 289, what that meant. That would mean that we were turning to the putting it all together, the $64,000 question page, right? Because reading it 17 times, you're a master now of this book. Now there's a difference between being a master of the book and implementing the mastery behind the book. Would you agree, Brooke?
Very much so. Very much so. And that's why we have things like Ignite in our tech series and all these classes. And it's, and everything we do in the region is backed up by the fundamentals of the MREA.
Absolutely. All right. So let's dive in because I have so many highlights in these last pages, and I really want to make sure we touch on a lot of them. And we leave here today feeling like I am going to have a plan and I'm going to tackle this one bite at a time. And you see the results of this series. So let's just dive right into the $64,000 question, Brooke. And I love this quick little story. How many of you know who Dr. Joyce Brothers is? I see Brian and Callie. Callie, our big winner of the Mega Camp ticket. Congratulations again. So she, what do you think was her story, Brooke? Do you remember reading this in the book?
I do. Hold on one second.
I have one section highlighted, and it says, Dr. Joyce Brothers knew what she wanted, focused on it, and achieved it. She proved that today's focus could ultimately manifest itself as tomorrow's reality. I highlighted that because it's so true for Dr. Joyce, yet it's so true for me as well. And I'm hoping it's true for you in your world and what your goals and your achievements are and will be. Joyce, what she did was she was persistent. They told her she couldn't be on the show because she didn't qualify. And then she went to go do something else to make sure she did qualify. She went to be a boxing instructor or boxing professional. What does it say? Boxing something, whatever it is. She added something so that they would be attracted to her as somebody to come on the show. And she was the first contestant to go all the way to the $64,000 winning. And she used that to excel herself in her career. Because this was back in the 50s. And back in the 50s, if you were a woman, what were we known for? Stay at home, make sure dinner was on the table, make sure the house was cleaned. And she didn't want that. She didn't want that definition for herself. So she committed and really had the tenacity to go after what she wanted. And I love that in that little last line in the $64,000 question. Anything else you want to add to that, Brooke?
What's funny is a lot of people don't read introductions of books, and I'm that weirdo nerd that always does. I love to see what other people say about the book and who's read it and who gives the forward. And I always end up highlighting things out of the prefaces and out of those things. And one of the things I highlighted is that many people overcomplicate success. Right? Success is just doing the same thing and mastering it before you move on to something else. So if you guys haven't read or flipped through those first few pages before the book starts, make sure you snag that and make sure you look in there, because I have a ton of highlights in there. That one's just on page 27. And that one, success is less complicated than most people make it. And most of you, when we sit down with you, when I'm doing tech audits, when I'm jumping into your commands or looking at your business, you guys are spinning up here, right? And my job is to help focus you and bring you back down to earth and get less complicated. So I just remind you throughout this, just success is less complicated.
It's good to see the old, we haven't seen my dad in a while.
Oh, okay.
All right, and then we're going to move right on. On page 290, it talks about 5 simple steps to put this all together. So today we're talking about putting it all together, everything that you've heard from session 1 through today. And on page 291, I highlighted the 5 steps. And I want to make sure you guys have these written out or at least highlighted in your book. And the first one says, create a personal plan and make process your focus. Make process your focus, right? So here's the thing. So many of us have a plan, but we don't know how to implement that plan. So this number 1 is so important. Number 2 is time block to get your focus.
I live by my calendar. Do you live by your calendar, Jen?
Yes.
And I'm blocked for certain activities. Believe it or not, I run my RTT world by the MREA model.
I have to tell you though, a secret though, Brooke. I fought this one for a very long time. I did not live through my calendar for a very, very long time. I was like, I could figure this out. And I ended up missing some things. I ended up being late to things because I had to rush to oh my gosh, I have to get there. I ended up missing important stuff. Yes. So until I really hit that, oh my goodness, how important is this? I really did fight it. So if you're one of those that are fighting the time blocking and not using your calendar very purposely, now I will tell you, my husband is a master at time blocking in his calendar, and I hate it. And I'll tell you why I hate it, because he puts everything in his calendar. Like yesterday, I dropped his dry cleaning off for him because the dry cleaners is right next door to my office. And I go home and he said, okay, did you get the ticket? No. I see him putting it in his phone to remind me to give him the ticket today. So I know when he sees me today, he's going to look at his calendar and he's going to say, do you have that ticket so I can pick up my dry clean? That's how, to the point he uses his calendar. Now that's not me. I will tell you, that's not me. Yeah, he does not forget a thing. And he's in the mortgage industry. He does not forget clients' dates or whys or anything because of that. So huge thing to time block and use your calendar purposely for you.
And do it before you get busy. Build that habit.
Yes.
Don't let the pain of, oh my God, I'm so busy, because now you have to break a bad habit.
Yeah, so true. All right, number 3 is get accountability to keep your focus.
Coaching.
Anybody get the theme of these sentences yet? Okay, I'm going to keep going and then maybe you could hear what I'm saying. Make sure your environment supports your focus. And number 5, keep your energy to maintain your focus.
I don't struggle with that one at all. You and I don't struggle with energy.
Oh, no, we don't. We love to bring the energy, and it's just part of us. But the common theme, and Elena, you came off mute. You know what it is, right?
Yeah, you need to purposely surround yourself with the
Your
people that
focus.
help you to work and try to eliminate distraction.
You're absolutely right. And the key words here, guys, is your focus. Your focus. What is your focus? Your focus has been fabulous because you focused on attending this series, and I see the same faces every day. So I know who's been here every day, and that's a focus. Now, how do you go out into your real estate world and keep that same focus and then elevate that, elevate it, elevate it, elevate it? So that's what these 5 steps to putting this all together are. So you got 5 steps there on page 291 if you missed any. And let's keep going. They break them down into each one of these sections. So the first one was create a personal plan and then make the process your focus. The one line I highlighted, Brooke, and I don't know if you have anything highlighted in here, is when you concentrate on your process of implementation of a plan that comes a big model, big achievements become not just possible, but come more likely. Did anybody hear something in there that popped out? Anything pop out in that sentence for anybody? All right, for me, it's the implementing a plan that becomes a big model.
Hold on, but it didn't say recreating a plan.
That's right. You're so right. So right.
Right. So we so often try to recreate it to make it fit us instead of us just playing by the rules. What I highlighted on the very last part is seeking mastery of this is a process and a path, not an event. You don't go to a class and boom, everything is all of a sudden turned on and everything works the way it's supposed to. It's mastery of this process and these models.
Oh, that's so good. That's such a good line. They then on page 293 break it down to leads, listings, and leverage. How many times have you heard leads, listings, and leverage in this book? A lot. Make sure you highlight those 3 things and add this to your planning. If you don't know how to plan, it's in the book, guys. You don't have to come up with the plan. It's already here for you. So highlight those 1, 2, 3 leads, listings, and leverage and how to do that. Brooke, anything on that?
Just to stay focused, the big theme of this chapter is focus. And if you're not able to get to those things, then talk to someone, seek out one of us if you're having struggles with time blocking or getting to those leads and making those phone calls. That's what we're here to help you refocus those things. Talk to your coach, talk to your leadership, but get in front of us because by focusing on these, that's how you get to the next level and the highest level.
Randy is recommending Atomic Habits. And go ahead.
Love Atomic Habits. Sorry, that it changed my world.
Yeah, it's such a good one. So guys, put that on your list. I know we're doing a lot. We'll send a recap with this kind of information in it. Let's just keep powering through today so we can get some really good action plans before the end of our 45 minutes. So we're going to turn to page 294, and on there's an acronym of TRY. Now, any of you that have taken bold, you're like automatically like, what? How can Gary Keller put this word in his book? Because in bold, they ask you to what? Eliminate the word.
Try. There is no try, only do.
There is no try, only do. Yet the purpose of this try is a lot different.
Yeah.
It is meant for the acronym of the real you. The real you. Don't be left high and dry, just aim high and try is that last bit of the sentence. So when you're thinking of try, instead of thinking of I tried to do it, think of this is the real you and you're aiming high. So I love that one little piece. It goes on to time blocking. We've talked a lot about this. You know, it talks about the business versus busyness, Brooke.
So I have so many people come to us and they're like, but I can't, my deal's going to fall apart if I don't pick up this phone call or somebody else dropped the ball, or there's always some, and I hate to use the word excuse, but it's not an excuse. But when you are taking away from your lead gen time, the thing that takes you away is still an excuse. At the end of the day, it excuses you from doing your lead gen.
Yeah, and you know, what Gary Keller talks about during this whole book is one of the things that separates the really, really successful teams in this book to the people who just haven't hit the mark is they don't allow distractions during what time?
Lead gen time.
It's the lead gen time. Like that's the thing that they really protect, because they know if they protect that time, everything else is easier or unnecessary as the one thing states,
Yes.
right?
And right in the back of the book, they even give you a door hanger to put on your door. And, you know, I even have one on my door of my office. I mean, one of my kids can't read. She's little, but she sees that image and she knows I can't knock on the office. I can't do this. I had it back in my office. Put a sign up. People will leave you alone.
Yeah, and it's a habit that you create for yourself and you create for your environment around you, for sure. So busy versus busyness, I highlighted just one quick little sentence. It says, successful people, highly successful millionaire real estate agents, they don't have a to-do list. Write this one down, guys. They don't have a to-do list. They have a have to list. A have to list. Instead of just having everything listed out, like going to the post office, like picking up something at the market, like whatever it is, they have a have to. They know if they don't do this today, something else in their business will suffer tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. A have to list. Do you guys have a have to list? All right, work on that one too. I love it. All right, Brooke, we're moving right on to the budget your time. What do you have highlighted there? Anything in that paragraph? We're on page 295, turning over to 296.
I do. And you know, the truth about time blocking, until your goals consistently hit your calendar, you won't consistently hit your goals.
Same highlight.
Same.
Read it one more time. Read it one more time, please.
You won't consistently hit your goals. So why? Until your goals consistently hit your calendar, you won't consistently hit your goals.
If it's not in a calendar, it doesn't exist.
That's right. That is so right.
It's a power tool. Your calendar is not just there. It just doesn't sit there. It is your biggest power tool.
And you know what it's also great for? It's also great so that way you could reflect on last week. How many of you look at your last week's calendar to see if you got done what was in that calendar and how you could do better this week? We do that a lot with our leadership here in our market center. We track what we're doing every day, right? We time block and we track it. And we'll go back and we'll say, okay, well, this time frame, we had it set that we were going to time block and we only got an hour in. So now this following week, what we do is we figure out how to better bunker ourselves for that time and what can we do to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Because if we kind of let the laundry effect happen where we just keep that happening, where we don't refill, recharge, re-energize that lead time, that lead generation time, we start losing it and losing it and losing it more. And the laundry effect is, how many of you have had a pile of laundry and you're like, I'll get to that. I will get to that pile of laundry. And then all of a sudden you look at it again and it's triple. It's like triple the size. You're like, oh my goodness, it's harder to do this now. I'll wait. And the longer you wait, the bigger that pile gets and the harder it is to get started. So that's the purpose of making sure you relook at your calendar when you're time blocking. Any questions on that? Comments?
I could add that it could go the other way too. I found that so when you bunker, yes, you tighten up the edges a little bit with time, but it could also go the other way. If you give yourself a larger amount of time, I found that I get more efficient because I'm really dedicated to that time. And I'm like, whoa, I better get this done. Like I only gave myself this amount of time. And then I find that instead of needing an hour, maybe I need 45 minutes. And then I realize how important it is. And then something comes in sideways and I'm like, I got to do this. So it could go the other way too, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I love that, Callie. You are so spot on. And that's why it's so important to track it, because that's how you get really purposeful with your time, where now you could say, you know what, I only needed 45 minutes. I could fill in something else that's even more purposeful for that time to get me closer to my goals. You're absolutely right. Spot on. All right, so let's keep going, Brooke. And I highlighted the same thing. We're going to go focus your time blocking. Do you have anything there that you wanted to add?
Yeah, just do it. It says it midway in.
Yeah.
I highlight that often because the hardest part of anything we do is just getting you guys to put your hands on your keyboard or to tap that phone icon and start dialing sometimes. Sometimes it's just the action of doing that is the most difficult. Open your Google Calendar, block, just do.
And I know it could be boring, and it says it in this chapter too, like, getting consistent in your like daily habits and what you're doing could get boring. Be okay with boring, guys, because on the other side of boring could be huge goals, huge aspirations. Your vision board is coming to life because you were bored in your habits. So keep that in mind. All right, so page 297 says, get accountability to keep your focus. Brooke, what do you want to add for that other than the headline itself?
Think about what accountability means to you and don't ever rely on self-accountability in this world. You need a buddy. You have to have a peer accountability partner. Find someone who is not known to you, who's not going to be like, Anthony, it's okay. You didn't do your calls today. We won't eat next month. It's okay. It's okay. Right? You need somebody who is going to hold you accountable to those things. These are not fluffy little hugs. These are, I'm calling, I'm checking in. You do have to hold yourself self-accountable, but you need accountability buddies.
Well, we talked about it yesterday, and Anthony, she wasn't picking on you. She just thought you're just right there. Yesterday, or actually it wasn't yesterday, it was Monday when Jamie Camerata was on. We were talking about accountability, and I told you that I really don't like that word. But what the word I do like is taking ownership for my actions. And that's what this is all about, taking ownership. And if you have somebody to hold you to your ownership of your tasks, that is all about the accountability and keeping focus on it. All right, let's see. We're going to accountability for refocus on page 299. And the only thing I highlighted was that actual part of it. Just read that again. Refocus. Accountability for refocus. Sometimes, a lot of times, we need to be refocused. Have you ever started off on a plan and all of a sudden the plan started looking like this and like this, and you intended for it to go there and it wasn't going there? All we have to do is refocus our plan. Gary Keller says, change the plan, not the goal. So that's what that means to me in that section, is accountability to refocus. Change your plan, not the goal that you're going for. Brooke, anything else on that?
So I have two things highlighted in that chapter. Get back to your big goals and your models. If you're struggling with accountabilities and the things you're doing, it may be because it's time to think about your big why and shift some priorities and see if those goals are still where you are. And then accountability shapes and reshapes your focus.
Absolutely. Love that. All right, moving on to page 302, it says, make sure your environment supports your focus. And again, that headline itself, I'd like for you guys to check. Gary Keller talks about having your space, like, is your workspace set up for your focus, for your goals? Is when you go home, is that set up? Or does everybody have that same commitment that you have? Have you asked them for a commitment? Have you tied in your family to your goals? In Bold, we talk a lot about this, Brooke, right? So we ask our family to actually sign off on permission that you are going to go all in on this program and you're going to commit yourself to the goals that you set, and you need their permission or their support so that way you can. And why do you think they have that? Why do you think they included that into Bold?
That's what one of our agents answered that one. Even if you haven't taken Bold, why do you think they did that?
So you have the support in all aspects of your environment.
Right. So you have that support and you actually have that conversation with them. It's like a team huddle. Like, you go home and you have a team huddle, and whoever that is, like, you call people in on conference calls, on Zoom calls, whoever it is, and say, hey guys, here's my plan. And when I get to the end of this plan, or when I accomplish the goal of this plan, here's what it means for you and us. Like, tie it in. It is, you guys are on, you're playing football, not, you're on a football team. You're not on a golf team, as, or he says basketball. Gary Keller says, you're on a basketball team. You're not on a golf team. Why? Because golf, how many people are on your golf team typically?
Me and my husband, and it's not pretty. It is
Is
not
that really a
pretty.
team, right? So most of the time it's one person, you know, playing golf for that score. On a basketball court, it's the team that's doing it to win that game. So guys, it's so important to make sure that your full environment, your full team has the support of your plan and your goal as you're building this whatever business, life by design. You guys see that right there, life by design, not by default world. So it's so important to make sure your environment supports your focus.
Yeah, it's more than a physical look around. I'm not saying just look around. It's, are you communicating your needs and what your goals are to the people who support you in your daily life? How are you making sure that everything is lined up, whether it's on the emotional plane or the physical plane of things that we do?
And it breaks it down here in this chapter or this section. It says your physical environment, your people environment. And, you know, I encourage you guys to go through this book and really do what we're doing, is highlighting the really cool things that stick out for you. Read the book again. I know that you read it for this series. Read it again. You'll have new highlights. I do every time I read this book, I have new highlights, because new things are like, oh, I missed that last time. Oh, wait a minute. That's more important to me this time than it was last time. So I need to highlight that and really focus on that. So go through this and highlight your own. The number 5 is keep your energy to maintain your focus. Brooke, what does that mean for you?
So for me, it's very different than some other people. I'm a high energy person, and what keeps me going is very different than what may keep Jen or Claire or someone else going. In order to maintain your focus at a high level, you've got to stay enthusiastic and energized. So if there are things that are bringing you down, let's figure out how to refocus that so that your energy stays high and that you're excited when you come in and you get in. For me, it was reading the one thing and understanding my big why. When I got really clear on my big why, my energy went through the roof. I mean, I was always energetic, but it went even bigger, but it was more focused energy and it was maintainable. It wasn't me coming in with a shot of espresso and then burning out by 11 o'clock energy. This is full life energy, which is very different.
I love that, Brooke. And you know what you just said was focused energy. Focused energy. And that's so important, because any of us on here could fake energy, right? Can you guys, can you go show up to a party? Can you show up somewhere and maybe you don't always have energy bursting out of you like Brooke does or I do, yet you show up when you need to show up with that energy. That's your focused energy, because you know you have a purpose behind it. Dial into that, figure out why you had that energy during that time and dial into that. Now, there are 5 steps to your energy areas, and that's on page 308. It says the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Energy Plan is 5 things. Meditate and pray. That's your spiritual energy. Exercise and eat. That's your physical energy. Gary Keller talks all the time. And, you know, one of his things is he wants to live as long as he can. So what he did was he said, okay, what do I need to do differently to make sure that I can live as long as I can in each one of these sections? And when he went to the exercise and eat, he came up with a plan on how to exercise, and he decided to go vegan, because in his world, like, that's how he would be the healthiest he could be, by being vegan. Like, that's what he'll tell you. He's like, I want to live as long as I can. And they told me that in order for me to do that, this was my plan. And I hated it. I hated starting it. It was hard to get used to it. Now that I've been doing it, it's easy. It's easy to do. So just kind of keep these things in mind on what Gary Keller is doing, what he's saying, and how it's showing up in his world. Gary Keller is a powerhouse. He's 64 years old. He's a powerhouse.
I know, and his skin is so smooth. Like, I want a skincare regimen, but anyway, number
Right.
3.
That's a whole nother story. All right. So number 3 is hug, kiss, and laugh. That's your emotional energy. That's your emotional. And some of you just are like, I gotta hug people again. Wait, what?
But you can laugh. Laughing doesn't involve physical touch. And we do a lot of that here at the region. We are a funny bunch. We are a very funny bunch of people. I have 3 different L's outside the MREA, right? If you guys have been in some of my classes, it's laughter, love, and learning. And that's where my energy comes from, are those 3.
And that falls right into the number 3 of the hug, kiss, and laugh, right? You don't have to do all 3, but if you kill it at laughing, that's part of your plan, your emotional energy plan. Then you have plan and calendar, your mental energy. And number 5 is lead generate business energy. This is all by 11 o'clock every day is to have this plan. Isn't that crazy that this is in here?
It is. And this is why also I love the Miracle Morning.
Oh yeah.
The Miracle Morning backs this up, right? It backs up these 5 things. And if you're struggling with these, hey, we just were told it's okay to time block them. Time block them into your calendar. Try it for 66 days. See what habits you can build.
I'm reading your comments, Randy, and we're going to come back to that. So we're going to just turn to page 311. I just want to give us time to really have conversation after this and really come up with some awesome action plans for this series. So in conclusion, on page 311, I highlighted just a couple of things. The first one I highlighted was leads, listings, leverage. Guys, if you don't have that highlighted somewhere in your world, go highlight it. Leads, listings, leverage. Have your plan behind leads, listings, leverage. The other thing I highlighted is to apply to other areas in your life. And that's just part of the sentence. But it says that a millionaire agent that has the same powerful focus will be yours to apply to other areas of your life. So all of these things that we're implementing is not just about real estate. It's not just about real estate. They all align with each other. It's a life by design, not real estate by design. And the other thing I highlighted is you think big, you think possibilities. Are you thinking big enough? And then the last piece that I highlighted here is the big models and big goals will pull you up through smaller goals to your highest achievements possible. You end up living larger, achieving the most you could achieve, and becoming the best you could become. And that's the conclusion of this book. Highlight that last section, read it over and over and over again. Are you being the best you today? If not, be 1% better than yesterday. And do the same thing tomorrow and the next day. So becoming the best version of you, that's how we're ending our series today. Yet, before you leave, we're going to go through some AHA's action plans of the entire series. So please put your cameras on, unmute yourself, and let's have a great discussion on your big AHAs from this 11-portion series. And let us know if it was worth it for you and your business to be here every morning with us, or 3 days a week anyway. So let's hear some AHAs, takeaways, action plans. We're going to let it get awkward until people start talking. So
I think it's this series helped me to put in order what I was thinking to do. Again, I came to the company as the seasoned agent from the different company, and I really now think that I should make a move sooner, because it shows the business in a little bit different perspective. And when I came, one of the my thought was, I don't know, I never thought I'm going to do the team. I don't want to do the team. But when you now look at the business and how to do the have life in the business and the production, that is actually the best way to go. And I can see that some different agents switching that. And I really like, I read the book, but read the book and just talk about it. It's two different things. And I like actually classes, and I like conversation because it gives you perspective and some other people goals. So I really appreciate that. I like it, serious.
You know, Elena, I appreciate you saying that. And I feel the same way. I feel like I've been in the business for 20 years this year, and I came over to Keller Williams in 2012. I wish I had come over sooner myself. And you know what? The thing is, it's never too late to implement these models and to dive in. So I applaud you for being here and really taking a lot out of this course, because you're right. You could read the book, but until you might hear some different perspectives or different ways to really look at it yourself, sometimes it's harder to put that into action. So we're always going to be looking for ways to come up with some proactive, interactive ways to get in front of you guys. And you know what? We're going to be going back on the road. So you're probably going to see Brooke and I in person at some point real soon. And if you haven't heard yet, the region is holding Mega Camp. This is just a quick plug for Mega Camp regionally. Yes, Sally, I like that, those moves for it. We're excited too. So Mega Camp regionally is going to be at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. So some of you, it might be a 3.5-hour ride or so. Some of you might be real close to it. We will be having an in-person Mega Camp event for the region, and that's August 24th through 26th. Look out for more details as they come.
I will be accepting all hugs from all of you that I get to see on Zoom every day. Find me, squeeze me. I'm 5'1" of energy with sparkly shoes running around. Find me.
I love high fives. I'm a high five.
I will take her hugs. I will take her hugs. I cannot wait to hug you all. People who are from my market center here know that. I will squeeze you.
All right, Randy, what do you got for us?
Well, we put a lot of emphasis, and this book puts a lot of emphasis on thinking big, having goals. And the systems are to deconstruct those goals into daily activities that will help us, like following a roadmap, to achieve those goals. But there's not enough emphasis. The weak link in all of this, the weak link for me in all of this is having the right habits to choose for those processes that help us achieve our goals. I mean, we're not putting enough emphasis. The whole thing about the one thing and focusing, the 66-day habit challenge and all of those things are very good. We really should be focusing our training on developing the habits that will allow us to choose for these activities that help us achieve our goals. So that's sort of my perspective. I don't mean that as a criticism of the plan. But in fact, Gary alludes to it at just about every chapter, every page.
You're absolutely right.
You can set goals, but if you can't choose for the activities that help you achieve those goals, you're not going to get anywhere. And I think most of us, to be honest, every real estate agent I've ever talked to, the thing we lack are habits, productive habits. We got to check that cell phone. We got to just check out the news in the morning. We have to just see if we got any new calls on, any new leads, or any agents calling us about listings. We just have to do those things. We have to attend our classes in the morning. Why are we doing classes when we should be lead generating? Why aren't classes held at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock? When our lead, so much emphasis is put on the sacred block of time that Gary talks about. We are interrupting that all the time with classes. My schedule is run over with classes.
So, I'd love to kind of just give a little pushback on that, because here's the thing. We want to give you the classes so that they're available for you. We do not expect or intend for you to take all of them. We want you to pick and choose your calendar, set your habits for you. But we do know that if we have classes all the time at 3 o'clock, our attendance is low. Why? Because energy is low at the end of the day. People check out by the end of the day. They're on appointments by the end of the day. So we are going to sprinkle in a lot of stuff earlier on with the intention that you set the habit to fill in your lead gen time right at 9:15 to 11:15 rather than 9 to 11, Randy. So we're looking at a whole bunch of things as well, and we can't accommodate everybody. Everybody has different schedules. Everybody has different things. Yet if you protect your lead generation time and you make it a habit of that, you work your schedule around that. And whatever class you need to take, you schedule the ones that you can take that fit into what your habits are. So I agree with you on the habits for sure. Yet I will say that we will always look to implement and provide classes and content that's going to be useful for a lot of agents here.
Fair enough, but
And-
fair enough. But you know what Gary says, if you erase, you must replace. And I'd like to know how many of us really, really are good at that. So if I'm going to take a
a
45
habit that
minute,
you have to form.
It
That,
is.
just like what I was talking about, my husband's habit of his calendar, he formed that. Like, he doesn't know how not to put something in his calendar, to be honest with you.
all right,
And he did that by forming that habit. And a
Right.
lot
So
of
there
us
you-
don't take enough time to form those habits, or the habits we create
right.
might not be the right ones.
So there you go, getting back to habits. It's about having the right habit to do what your husband
Right.
does successfully. I mean, how do we, and so, it's like saying, have a nice day. Okay, how do I get it? How do I get one? I mean, developing the habits is that's why I recommend Atomic Habits, by the way, because it's a real blueprint for developing the kinds of habits and making it easy incrementally to develop those habits. So.
And I'll say this too, I come from a market center with a gentleman, Bill Weidecker, if you guys haven't met him. And one of the things he had always said to me, because I was like, there are so many classes and there's so many things our agents have to do. And I feel like I'm always full. Like I'm always doing things. And he said, Brookie, he goes, do you eat a whole chicken wing, like the whole thing down the gullet? And I was like, no, absolutely not. And he's like, you've got to eat the meat and leave the bones. And you've got to go when you're hungry. You're not going to go to dinner when you're full. You're not going to eat a meal when you're full. So he really helped me refocus and actually get super granular on habits I was trying to build. The other thing is, look at the habits you're trying to build and refocus your 66 day. If you're not consistently hitting those marks and able to say, yep, crossed it off, did it, then it's not the right habit to build at this time. And it's okay to refocus those habits. So from Bill Weidecker, eat the meat, leave the bones.
I love that.
No,
I love that.
yeah,
Very
this is,
valuable
yeah.
a lot too.
When I came to this company, and I was like, oh my gosh, so many classes. But then this is the up to the agent. You need to look and choose what you need now. Then you take the classes and you find the time. And then you make a next step. You take the other classes. And the classes repeated actually, with the different time of the day, different time of the year. And this repetition is quite like, I really appreciate it. Because if something that I didn't take the first time of the year when I'm in the company, I can take the second time.
That's right.
It's all in a repetition. And that is amazing.
Thank you, Elena. And so, before we have 2 minutes left, I'd love to get some ahas. Like, what are your takeaways from the session? What are your big action plans, or just a quick takeaway from this 11-part series of going through?
My biggest aha is I started writing out my standard process. So I actually previously, because you can put a list in command for your opportunities, what you got to do for each section. So I've already done that, but I'm not huge. I'm not really big on checking it off, for some reason. So I wanted to write it out. I'm like, if I hired somebody, could they figure this out quickly, easily? Could I explain it without, because I'm, I don't know, ADD is not the right word, but I'm kind of all over the place when I try to teach something because I get excited about it. So I was like, okay, let me write something out. Let me do that standard processing and start writing those steps out. And I started looking at the steps as how I would want an employee of mine to do the process. every step. You're not missing that email. You're not missing the follow-up thank you. You're not missing the, and then I started going, oh, do I do all the steps that I would expect somebody else to do? And I'm like, well, I don't really do that one, even though it's important. If I hire you, you better be doing it. So that was my big aha, because after that, start writing out your standard processing, I started typing something up. And in my time, I could have sat there for 4 hours, right? So I'm like, I'm only this far through it, but, and I started looking at myself as an employee, and would I be upset with myself? And so that was my big aha was, I meet buyers, or I get a random phone call on one of my listings, and am I doing the things I would expect my employee to do to make sure I capture that person and keep them? Though we may have never met yet at this point, or if we have met, you better believe I better keep them. So, that was my big aha was.
That's huge.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I was like, wow, this is a whole, so yeah, if I hired myself, would I be impressed with my activities?
Yeah, you know what? And I was asked once as a
If you
team
want to
leader.
go back to that, or my habits, if you want to go back to all that, if I hired myself, would I be upset with myself as an employee? So it's hard to hold yourself accountable. And I have reached out to other agents to be accountability buddies with me. And I do feel that they're often very lax. And I'm like, no, I want you to be mean. Like, don't be nice to me. I know I'm funny, but don't be nice. So yeah, that was my big aha.
I love it, Melissa. And when I first became team leader, somebody said to me, do the job as if Gary Keller was hiring you. So are you guys doing your job every day, and would Gary Keller hire you? And Melissa, that's exactly what you're talking about. You're going back to honing your skills to make sure they're set up and the value is there for when you do hire. So I love that aha. Very, very good. Randy, you crack me up. And we're going to end the series and say thank you guys. Brooke, thank you for being my co-host today. It's been a lot of fun. We will be doing this again quarterly, so keep a lookout for the next series. Please join us again, and thank you so much for being here. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Guys, have a
Thanks so
fantastic
much. Happy
Thank you.
graduation.
Thank you.